Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a couple more cards using elements from Simon Says Stamps February card kit. Specifically the foil transfer cards. A little blown out. There we go. That come in the kit. You can get these separately as well. And yeah, I hot foiled a couple of them with the foil that comes with it. These are toner foil, acetate sheets. And yeah, in full disclosure, complete honesty, I did attempt, I'm not going to include all that footage because it's pointless, but I did attempt to foil a couple of the panels using my Glimmer hot foil machine. My Glimmer hot foil machine, and specifically this big solid plate that we use. This one's by Pink Fresh, but it's just a big solid hot foil plate, and you usually use that to use like the leftover pieces of Glimmer hot foil, you know, and you can foil onto just solid cardstock, etc. I've done videos on that in the past, and I have been told that you can use this with the Glimmer machine and foil cardstock that's been printed with toner ink, etc. And I was like, I wonder if it'll work with these acetate toner printed sheets. So I tried it and I wrecked them. I don't know. I tried it a couple times, a couple of different ways, and I couldn't get it to work. It fused. Yeah, you can see it. It fused the foil to everything. So, and it did that with both of them. I tried it a couple of different ways, and yeah, it just completely overfoiled them. So, I don't know. This is not my forte. Like, I don't know what's gotten into me lately. I've been just experimenting more, which I normally don't do. I don't have time. I don't have time to experiment. I just let everyone else figure things out, and then I give them credit. That's how I roll, you know? But yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there's maybe a way to make it work because I've heard it does. I couldn't get it to work. So I just, rather than continue to mess around until I got it to work, because I only had 2 more in this pack. So I was like, nope, I'll come back to it at some point and see. Because for me specifically, I don't do a whole lot of toner foiling, like with my laminating machine. I do a bit here and there. You know, I dabble in it, and I'm getting better at it. But like Glimmer hot foil with the plates and things, I have figured that out, you know, so I don't have to mess around. It works. But the toner foil situation, still a hit and a miss for me, but getting there. So I pulled out my Minc though, and I was able to foil the other 2 properly. And then I did some sewing. I turned them into little shakers, and I sewed through the acetate. Nothing fancy. You can see right there. That is just a Janome. I think that's how you pronounce it. I always forget. My brain always stops. But it's just a Janome New Home. I think it's called New Home. Yeah, New Home sewing machine. I've had this for a little while now. I don't really show footage of me sewing. I might be able to include a bit. I'm filming this before I get all the editing done. But just any sewing machine, and people always ask, do I have special needles, special thread? No. I use the needles that came with it and just whatever thread I have on hand. It doesn't matter. For people that do sew, like real sewers, if you sew on fabric, you probably would want to have a dedicated needle for cardstock and that. You will be well aware. Using needles, scissors, etc. on paper dulls them. And yes, because people have brought that up, and I'm aware of that. Sewing on cardstock, paper, etc., with your sewing machine, the little paper is like the dust, the linty dust from paper can build up. So make sure if you're doing a lot of it, you would have to do a lot. You know, I don't do it enough, but I'm just aware of it, so that if I see any buildup, I'll just take a really soft, fluffy brush and clean it out, or an air can, whatever. So I think that's enough disclaimers, explanations, failed attempts. It was a process getting these cards made. I had a little adventure, and it was fine. So if you guys keep watching, I'll show you guys how I made these cards. So I took the remaining two Acetate Hearts foil transfer sheets and the rose gold Deco foil that came in the kit, and got my Minc machine out, turned that on. A laminator will work as well, as long as it's got a heat setting, and got everything ready. And then my little carrier sheet, it's just a folded piece of copy paper because I keep losing the carrier sheets for my Minc. So folded piece of copy paper. Parchment paper works really well as well. And yeah, you just put the ugly side of the foil towards the actual toner printed, which I'll try to show. It's hard to show on camera, especially on something like acetate. Obviously, when it's toner printed on cardstock, it's kind of obvious. There's only one side. With the acetate, these acetate sheets, it's a little different. That first one I did was obvious because it's a word, you know, it can only go one way. But I found with these, you just got to tilt them in the light. And right now I'm showing the back. It's very glossy. When you tilt it in the light, you can kind of tell what side it was printed on. So if the whole thing is just full shiny, that's the back. So I would just tilt it in the light, and then you can kind of see the actual image. So in this case, this outline of hearts was like just slightly more matte. So once I figured that out, I just put the foil with the ugly side of the foil facing the toner sheet. And if you mess it up, it'll be fine, because you would just pull it out of your Minc machine and nothing would have happened. So you would just have to run it through again. You flip it over, run it through again. It's fine. So they foiled great. I was happy this worked. As far as my whole little fiasco using it with the glimmer, it was a little experiment for me. I'm not concerned about it. You know, this kit was sent to me, and I consider it part of my job, you know, trying things out. There is a way to make it work. I just haven't figured it out, and it doesn't help. I also did not search. I know I said there's videos out there. I know I've seen them. I don't know where they are. So I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. And if I had been successful, I would have shown you guys, and then I could have patted myself on the back. Anyway, I trimmed down some of the pattern paper. I'm using pattern paper, you guys. Like, again, for that, I do get a pat on the back. I hoard pattern paper. I love it. I like to pet it, you know. I get inspired by it. I don't always use it anymore, but I used it for this because the pattern paper behind these acetate sheets, it was just, you know, it really let the pattern paper shine, you know. So that love one, I was able to trim down. I just took I think a 1/4 inch off each side just to make it a bit smaller. And then I trimmed the pattern paper to the same size. And then I just used a little piece of Easy C tape to kind of hold them together, and then sewed around 3 edges with my sewing machine, and had some light pink thread. And I only did the 3 sides first, because then I left that top portion there open, and I put some confetti in there to make it a little shaker. So I'm just using a couple different colors of Trinity stamps. Confetti, I used Peony Pink and Rock Candy, which is one of my faves because it just goes with everything, obviously. So I didn't put a lot in this because I didn't want it to be, super, super chunky, since this is quite obviously very thin. Like, these are flat shakers. So I just put in a little bit, you know, it gives it a little bit of a sparkle, shine, that little bit of shake. And then I'm going to sew this closed, and then I'm going to go around it again with just another line of stitching. That's not necessary. You don't have to do this. I like doing more than one row when I'm sewing on my cards because I can't sew a straight line to save my life. I just, nope. And I'm not going to bother trying because I don't really care. And 2, I like the look of it being a little wonky, you know, and 2 rows is better than 1 in my opinion. So, but it's not necessary for stability or anything like that, or, you know, keeping everything closed. 1 is good. It's sewn. But I did 2 low rows and I love it. And then I repeated the process with the second one. Didn't bother showing that, but it was the exact same thing. I trimmed the paper down to the same size as the panel, sewed around 3 edges, added shaker bits, sewed it closed, and then did another row around it with the sewing machine. And then I've got these 2 flat shaker panels. And then I pulled out the newer, this is the Simon Says Stamp Fancy Sweetheart wafer dies. It was from their, I think, the Sweetheart release, the one that just came out. And I die cut some of the champagne, the matte champagne cardstock that comes in the kit with the word. And then the outline I die cut from some of the pattern paper. And then I just adhered them together with craft tacky glue. And then with this love panel, the one corner I did pull the threads through and then adhered to the back. On everything else, I left the threads like hanging out like on the other corner and on the other panel. Because I like the look of that. It gives, I don't know, to me, it just really shows like I did this. I sewed, look at these threads hanging off of it. I don't know, I like it. I know some people don't. That's fine. If you want to sew in your cards and pull the threads, to the back and do it proper, totally. For me, it just depends on my mood. Sometimes I pull them to the back and adhere them, and other times I leave them hanging out. More often than not, I leave them hanging out because I like it. And then for my card bases, A2 size note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I adhered some of the pattern paper. I wanted the little ephemera pieces, and then I stamped a sentiment from the slider, typewriter, and camera stamp set that comes in the kit. I stamped that onto the insides with Simon's Surf Positively Saturated ink. And then to adhere that little butterfly ephemera, I used a bit of Simon's Terrific tape because you're adhering on top of acetate. I do not like using liquid adhesives on acetate if I can help it. I'll do it if I need to, depending on the element, etc. But if it's big enough, I will use something like Terrific tape or foam squares, those sorts of things, to really it just adheres better in my opinion. So I adhered that little butterfly. I did the same thing to the inside of the second card, just adhered a bit of the pattern paper, stamped a little sentiment, adhered one of the little pieces of ephemera. And then I adhered my little shaker panel. This covers up the entire A2 card. And then I used the Terrific tape to adhere the sentiment on top of it. And then I'm going to add just another one of those little ephemera butterflies, which just same as pattern paper. Oh, I hoard ephemera. I love it. And especially, I didn't want to use these butterflies. I just wanted to keep them, but they're pretty and it just gave a little extra something. So I did that. And then I added a couple of the Sparkly Hearts gem stickers to the centers of the butterflies. And that finished off these cards. They were really quite simple. It's had hot foiling and sewing and they're flat shakers, but they were not difficult to do. So even with my little adventure and experiments and stuff, I had fun. I had fun making these. I hope you guys enjoyed them. And yeah, they're shaky. Can't go wrong with a shaker. I don't know what it is. It's just so satisfying and fun. So as always, I will have links below to all of the things. You can just expand the description box underneath the video, and I'll have a supply list with links to everything to check out if you are interested. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.